Hello, and a very, very warm welcome to the latest edition of News Talk. I'm Stephanie, and as always, I'm delighted to be joined by David. Hi, David.
Hi, Stephanie. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, as Stephanie says, as always, we're going to be looking at three hot topics in the news, and we want to hear your opinion. So please do chat to us.
Absolutely. This is your opportunity to practice your English, learn some new vocabulary, practice your listening skills, and join in with the discussions. Every week we choose three very different stories that are making headlines, and we want to know, what do you know about them? Do you have any information about these stories? And what do you think about them? As always, everybody's opinion is welcome. We do try to present a balanced front on this, but we really welcome everyone's opinion. So do type in the chat and join in the debate.
Let's have a look at, shall we, the
Let's get
topics.
started. Here we go.
So in the first one, we are asking, why were 70 passengers on flight SQ321 taken to hospital? I think this really did make the news around the world because it is such an unusual event, actually.
Absolutely, really unusual, but really shocking. And I think a lot of people sort of perhaps have experienced minor element of this. So really interested to know what you think about story one. Story two, something completely different. Netflix. Are you a subscriber? Would you like to be a subscriber? We will find out whether David is and whether I am. You can have a guess. What do you think? Are we Netflix subscribers? But the question we're asking is, how have they attracted 40 million new users? That's story number two.
Yeah, what do you think about that as well? And then finally, and I think this is such an important topic that affects certainly most of us in this country, and it'll be interesting if it also happens in your country. If you're buying tickets for anything, for concerts or any other types of events, have you ever been scammed or ripped off? And we'll be looking at that vocabulary as well. Have you ever been scammed or ripped off when you're buying tickets for concerts?
Absolutely. So three very different stories there. Thomas, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for typing in the chat. Lovely to have you with us today. Everybody else that's watching, please do type in, say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. We're going to kick off with story number one. The question, why were 70 passengers on a Singapore Airlines flight from London to Singapore, why were they taken to hospital? So as David said, this story making headlines all around the world. It's been a very, very hot topic.
Yeah.
What do you know about it?
Yeah, because apparently there were something like 220 passengers on board, plus the crew. And what seems to have happened is one person actually died of a heart attack. I think it was a 71-year-old. And then there were a number, and it's not clear how many, were taken to hospital in Bangkok because the airline was diverted from its final destination, which was going to be Singapore, to Bangkok. And the reports are between 30 and 70 people were taken to hospital, some with quite serious injuries.
Exactly. So really shocking story this, but does anybody know what happened? What happened aboard this flight? Mohammed, you're very welcome. Welcome to the discussion, Mohammed. So what
Thank you
we'd
for
like to
joining.
know is what happened in this flight that caused the flight to be diverted, as David said, diverted and had to land in Thailand, and necessitated, I think, 30 people being taken to hospital with serious injuries.
Yeah, a very surprising story, as we say. Although I do understand the same thing, but possibly not as severe, happened to a Qatar flight last week, which was flying
Absolutely.
from London to Qatar, I think, or something like that. And that there was big problems there as well.
Absolutely. I think what we're talking about, which we won't reveal just yet, is actually quite a common occurrence. But of course, it's the level of severity, isn't it? And for most of us, if you fly, you might experience a little bit of this, but certainly not to the degree that these unfortunate and very unlucky passengers did. I think a lot of it obviously depends on the routes that you're flying. And this particular incident happened over the Irrawaddy Basin, I understand, in Myanmar. And again, particular weather patterns, weather conditions happening in that particular region.
Yeah, and apparently as well, I've seen some experts' opinions saying this this event is going to become more and more frequent. And again, this is because of climate change and changes in the atmospheric conditions.
So I think we need to, are we going to reveal, David, what we're talking
Absolutely.
about? So of course we are talking about turbulence. Turbulence. Of course, that word fills a lot of us with dread, doesn't it? You hear that the passengers are asked to fasten their seatbelts. We're going to experience some turbulence, and it can be a very scary experience, can't it? When you're thousands of feet up in the sky.
Absolutely, because apparently the planes, these massive planes just suddenly drop like that, and that's what's happened, isn't it? So in the end, I think it was a number of the crew, because obviously they weren't sitting down, they didn't have their seatbelt fastened, so of course they were injured, and then other people were actually, flying around the cabin.
And that's the thing. And I think that's a really important point, that when you hit these air pockets, there is very, very little warning. So the captain doesn't have time to let everybody know to take their seats and put their seatbelts on, which, of course, is one of the reasons why passengers are advised to keep their seatbelts loosely fastened whenever you're sitting down. But that doesn't help the cabin crew, does it?
Oh, absolutely not. It was, obviously the airlines are really saddened by the incident, and the poor family of the man that died. But I think the important thing to stress is how unusual, how rare this is. As Stephanie, as you were saying, I think most of us on many flights experience a little bit of turbulence, but nothing like something so traumatic and so severe as on this occasion.
Absolutely, it's very rare, and at the end of the day, the plane it's not like the plane is going to fall out of the sky. It just has something that has to be endured until the pilots regain control at the end of the air pocket. So whilst it's a very scary experience, a really scary experience, as David said, it does happen very, very rarely, and you are safe as long as you've got that seatbelt fastened.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, has anybody experienced turbulence? Have you experienced a lot of turbulence, Stephanie?
Um, yes, I mean, generally not too bad, but I did have one flight from Milan to Liverpool that was really, really scary. And again, it was flying over the Alps where we had very bad turbulence, and it was not an experience. I was trying to tell myself to think logically. When you're in the moment, it's quite difficult, isn't it?
I think it's extremely difficult. And, the advice always, it's always the same. Fasten your seatbelt. Keep your seatbelt fastened at all times. That's the best you can do.
And I mean, there are certain routes, obviously, that are more likely to experience turbulence than others. And apparently, the top three, number one, any guesses, David? What part of the world is the number one most
Ooh.
turbulent?
Across the mountains, like India, around that area, the
South
Himalayas.
South America.
Oh, South
Um,
America.
yeah, so flying from Chile to Bolivia apparently is very, very turbulent flight on that route. Number two, flying from Kazakhstan to Kyrgyzstan, again very turbulent. And the number three was a route in China.
Oh, wow.
So some routes definitely more likely to
Or,
experience them than
yeah,
others.
yeah. Shall we look at the vocabulary
Let's
then?
have a look at the vocabulary. So let's go back, as always, to our slides, and we'll check our answers and, of course, have a look at some key words. So here we go. Let's have a look. Passengers, we asked why were they taken to hospital? Well, they were treated for injuries after deadly turbulence. That was the word there. Turbulence hit their Singapore Airlines flight.
Yeah, so obviously we've talked a lot about turbulence, and these are the strong, sudden movements particularly in air, but it can also happen in water. And quite often on the plane, they don't say turbulence, they might say bumpy air or something like that. But turbulence is the correct word.
And the second word, I use this a lot when I was talking just now, severe. If something is severe, notice the pronunciation there, severe. It's extremely bad or serious. So you might experience slight turbulence, or in this case, unfortunately, the passengers experienced severe, extremely bad or serious turbulence.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that it was a traumatic experience, traumatic adjective, trauma is the noun, and a traumatic experience. So it causes severe, again, and lasting emotional shock and pain. Not something you want to experience, really.
Absolutely not. But again, useful vocabulary, especially those words severe and traumatic. When you're reading news stories, they come up in many, many different contexts.
They certainly do.
So we're on to story number 2. Now, Netflix, somehow they've managed to attract 40 million, that's 40 million new users. And we'd like to know, how did they do it? Do you have any idea? Please type in the chat and let us know.
Yes, this is, and it's a big change for them because I think they have been having difficulties. They have been struggling to attract users,
Mm.
subscribers. So this is great news for them.
Absolutely. And of course, interesting to find out any Netflix subscribers watching today. And I don't know, we asked people to guess if David or myself happens to be a Netflix subscriber. We have seemed to have lost David momentarily. Hopefully, he's going to be back very soon. Let's see if we can invite him back into the room. While we're waiting, please do type in, let me know. David's not here for me to chat to, so please do type in. What do you think about Netflix? Do you watch Netflix? Do you have a particular program that you can recommend on Netflix? Or perhaps you don't. Either way, please let us know in the chat. So we're talking about numbers. I mean, 40 million users. That's a large amount of new users that have somehow have subscribed. Here comes David. Let's
Sorry, yes.
try to join again. You're back, David.
Yes.
So we're just saying. I was asking if anybody subscribes to Netflix and perhaps to let us know in the chat.
Yeah. So do you, Stephanie?
No.
No?
Do you, David?
We do actually. It's possibly one of the very few streaming services that we do subscribe to because I think it's got a great selection of series and movies or films and yeah, I think it's probably worth it. It's not bad value. Um,
Amelia, paying attention there. Amelia, you're absolutely right. You're right, I was. But yeah, now I've cancelled my subscription. Limited free time. I don't watch that much TV anyway. And I don't know about anybody else, but I always felt a bit overwhelmed by the choice. There's so much to choose from on many, many streaming platforms. You spend a lot of time deciding what to watch rather than just getting on and watching something.
Well, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, scrolling through everything, but I do. I still quite like Netflix. But it is interesting, how much these plans for subscribing to these services varies. Um, and I didn't realize, but it varies enormously depending on which country you are in. I don't know if anybody has this experience or knows how much they pay. But for example, in the UK, the plans do start from about £5, but they can go up to £18, which is quite a lot of money.
But what do you get for that extra money, David?
So that means that you can have lots of different members joining your
Ah,
account, right? So they could be on different devices and different places. rather than the basic plan, which is not called basic now, which is only for sort of like one or a shared household.
I see. Amelia's saying she, like me, used to have Netflix, but is now a YouTube Premium.
Ah, that's a very good point. I wonder why YouTube Premium and not ordinary YouTube.
Let us know, Amelia. So, of course, Netflix has a lot of rivals, doesn't it? I mean, it's not operating in a vacuum. They've got likes of Disney, for example, strong competition coming from Disney. So, any ideas? How have they managed to attract all these new users on a particular plan? That's what we'd
Yeah,
like to know.
yeah. So Disney Plus was only launched in 2020, but already has over 150 million subscribers. So they're doing very, very well. Thank you, Amelia. Yes, because YouTube Premium doesn't have ad advertising. Um, and well, that brings us around to how have Netflix managed to attract all these users? Well, the answer is they have created a plan that supports advertisements. So you pay your lower subscription fee, but you also have to watch advertisements. And 40 million people think that's a good deal. It's a better deal than paying more money and having no ads.
Yeah, I think in America it's $6.99 a month, isn't it? If you buy into this ad plan, they call it the ad tier plan, six
Right.
ninety nine a month, which is undercutting, which is lower than key rivals such as Disney. So clearly, people not minding watching some advertisements.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and again, this is whole thing about, attracting users by creating bundles of things, a number of different elements. So it makes it cheaper for the end user. And I think this plan was launched about a year and a half ago, and now the results are really, really coming in.
And I think they're not stopping there, are they? I think in the future there's plans to launch a new in-house ad tier platform where they're going to buy in better ads and therefore can engage with their users in a better way.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, with the end game of encouraging people to spend more, subscribe longer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that whole thing about engaging with users, because if you don't engage with your users, you lose them. So it's really, really important.
Something we know, absolutely, yes. Should we have a look at some of the answers here, David?
Absolutely.
So let's go back to our slides here. So the question was how? How have Netflix managed to do this? And the answer, yes, Amelia, we were talking about ads. Well, they've introduced an ad-supported tier meaning level, which offers a more affordable subscription option for users. And of course, people, households, families always looking to save some money, especially at the moment. So this is a very attractive offer.
Yeah, and as we said, what many, many companies do now is that they create bundles, and a bundle is a number of things that go together, that belong or are sold together to make one subscription or one purchase.
We use the verb launch a lot. If you launch something, you introduce something new. In this example, such as a new product, you launch it into the market.
Yeah, and as we have said, for everybody or for anybody in business these days, really, it's very important to engage with your users. And if you engage with them, then you succeed in attracting and keeping users' attention and interest. And Amelia, good point about watching ads could be a waste of time, but obviously people are happy to spend the money not to waste ads. And I think that's particularly, I don't know how the younger generation, but one fact that I found is that young people today don't watch television. 90% of young, very young people, they they go online. They don't
Mm.
watch television, and if they watch YouTube, blooming heck, Are they going to watch a lot of advertisements?
Good points there. Amelia says time is more expensive, David. There you go.
There we go. Yes, agreed.
I think we'll give you the final word there, Amelia, and we'll move on to our final topic for today. So, topic number three. Topic number three, we're talking about being scammed or ripped off. Now, specifically, to start with, we're talking about buying tickets for concerts, for example, online. Have you ever bought a ticket for something and the event didn't happen, or it wasn't a real ticket, it wasn't an authentic ticket, or perhaps you paid for it and you never received your ticket? So we'd like to know some stories. I hope it hasn't happened to you, but unfortunately it is a growing area of criminality, isn't it, David?
It certainly is. And I mean, it's fraud, right? And that's the a fraud is when you commit the crime of getting money from people. You deceive them, you trick them, they think that they're getting something which they don't get. But it is so common, especially online today. And this story really what emerged because of suspect everybody knows of Taylor Swift. She is a global phenomenon, and there are so many fans of hers who have bought tickets online to see her concerts, only to find out that it's a scam and they haven't got the actual tickets. It's happened to lots and lots of people in the UK.
And I think that's the issue, isn't it? It's these big sort of big events that people become very desperate to get tickets for. They sell out very quickly, the tickets, because everybody wants to go and see Taylor Swift. Or another example could be the Olympics. Very popular event. Everybody wants to see them. The tickets sell out quickly, and so people start searching online, trying to find alternative solutions.
I mean, and good, because here we are talking about two issues. One is the scam, but then the other is being ripped off. And if you are ripped off, then you are charged more, a lot more than the thing is worth. And increasingly we see that happening with tickets. So for example, a ticket that should cost, say, $100 is bought by a third party or a bot online. And then because the event is sold out, as Stephanie is saying, then that is inflated the price and they can sell it for maybe 2-3 times more. That is a total rip-off. But the law in our country at the moment doesn't do anything about it. So it's up to you as a consumer to decide if you want to pay that extra money.
And of course, people do, don't they? I mean, people want to go and see, for example, I talked about the Olympics, these kind of events that clearly don't happen every year. It's every 4 years. You have to, if you miss the chance this year, it's another 4-year wait for the next one. People want to have tickets for them. And so I think a lot of these people do play on that sort of sense of desperation.
They do. And like music artists in particular. I know. Sorry, Umid. I am sticking. There is a problem with I think it's our provider who's causing the problems. But apologies. The many big artists today are getting together and trying to get a law passed to stop this happening. And I wish them every success because it's really bad. You know,
So interesting to find out. I mean, has this happened to anybody else? We're talking about buying tickets, but it could be in other situations as well. Have you ever bought anything online and paid extra so you've been ripped off, or perhaps you've been tricked? You think you've bought something and then you haven't received it, or what you received wasn't what you paid for. So, really interesting to find out your experiences. I mean, if we look at some statistics, I was reading about this, and apparently 86 million pounds has been lost in the UK in purchases that never materialize. So people paying for things online that then were never sent. And a
Yeah,
total of £86 million. I mean, that's immense, isn't it?
it is, and it's increasing each year. One thing that happened to me is that I booked accommodation in New York one year, a number of years ago, and the website, it looked so professional. I thought it was really, really true. I do think that normally I'm very careful, but I believed this was a true company. I unfortunately I paid the money, and then not long afterwards I realized it was a scam. I lost the money. I
Oh,
went
no.
I went to my bank to try and stop the payment, but nothing happened. And I lost quite a lot of money. I wasn't very happy.
Interesting question there, David. I mean, how did you first realize it was a scam? Because as you say, these people, they can create some really professional websites, can't they? So what was the clue that
It
made you
was the
realize?
it was the follow-up communication after I'd made
Okay.
the payment. It suddenly went very, very quiet.
Okay, so I mean, top tips there. I mean, be very careful when purchasing things, especially if it's something from a new company or something you've never paid money to before.
Yeah, yeah, it's ah, but I think it's just one of those things of life today and
It's
online,
a
isn't
risk
it?
you take, isn't it? Yeah, it's absolutely a risk you take when you buy something online. And as more and more of us are shopping online and buying things online, unfortunately, it's something that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's have a look at some of the
yeah,
vocabulary then.
yeah,
So, as we said, hopefully, we're hoping that no one else has been ripped off or scammed. Um, but as we said, fake Olympic tickets and Taylor Swift tickets are the two biggest online scams consumers are likely to encounter this year, both very hot tickets.
yeah. And this is when people like me are tricked. And if you are tricked, then you are deceived, often as part of a deliberate plan.
We use the word scam a lot. It's a noun here, a scam. You can use it as a verb to scam someone. You can be scammed. So, really useful word this. It's a clever and dishonest plan for making money.
Yeah, to scam. Scammer would be the person as well, wouldn't it? And we mentioned it is a crime when this happens, and it's called a fraud, and you commit fraud. And a fraud is the crime of, as we said, of getting money by deceiving, by tricking people.
So stay safe online, I think is the message there. As David said, you can't always avoid it, but do be careful, pay attention where you're spending your money.
Yes, and we have some news, a little bit of news for you. First of all, apologies for the internet connection today. This isn't us. I think it's the service provider we use, and we're not very happy with it. But I hope you managed to at least hear us and see Stephanie.
And we can hear you perfectly, David. I mean, we can hear
Okay,
you perfectly.
good. Stephanie, would you like to? So our news?
Yes, so we're going to be taking a mini break from our news talk. So this will actually be our last news talk for a while. But we do want to say a big thank you to all of you who have joined in, typed in the comments, and really made this a fun session. Both myself and David really enjoy doing this session. It's completely live, it's unscripted, and we really love interacting with you, reading what you think, sharing our ideas and opinions with you. So big thank you to all of you for that.
Indeed, indeed.
And in the interim, until we decide to start up again, I am going to be running some pronunciation classes in this slot. So I will be doing some pronunciation practice. So if you haven't been able to join me in my Friday classes, or even if you have and you'd like to have a refresh again, I will be running my pronunciation classes at 5 o'clock UK time from next week. So we'll be starting next Monday. So I hope to see you then.
So
Thank you,
do
Amelia. Please do join me.
Yeah, do come and join because they are a lot of fun and everybody really likes them. Yeah, sorry, Doris, your internet connection is bad. I think we're all suffering a little bit. bit
We're all at
today.
the mercy, aren't we, of the internet? I mean, if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, we all
Yeah,
suffer.
yeah. But thanks to everybody for joining us, and
Absolutely.
see you soon.
We'll see you again very soon. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye bye.